Welcome back to AM Northwest. Here now with a collection of Alaskan and Inuit art, along with important information about Ivory. We welcome back antique appraiser Gary Germer. Great to see you
Ellen,
again.
Thanks for having me back.
You always bring the most interesting collections. So this comes from one estate, right?
This came up from one estate out of Bandon, Oregon.
Wow.
Some folks were downsizing, and this is just a part of what they've sent me to deal with. And so it's been kind of a head plunge into learning a lot about this.
You have to learn the history about these things, right?
You do, and and then you learn about different artists and whatnot. The native arts, and this is all Inuit art, which, you know, the Inuits, you think of northern Alaska, but actually it's all around the Arctic Circle, around the Canada and Greenland are all kind of related, and so the art is all kind of related there, and so a lot of this is actually from Canada as well as Alaska.
So let's talk about the wood carvings first.
Well, that's probably what we think of the most when we think of the people is wood carving, totem poles, and that sort of thing, which was a religious ceremony. And there has been a big push with the government in Canada and with the U.S. to support the revival of the native arts. And I brought these along because they all have different symbols. The birds and whatnot have spiritual symbols. Sure. But wood is just only one of the mediums that they use. And we have a bunch of different rocks and different things here. They would use seal skin.
So let me ask you, how much would something like this
Well, they're really cool. Just a nice small piece, and it's a good artist, but not necessarily the top artist. A good artist is probably about $150. Okay.
And then this with the sealskin?
The sealskin doll. This is something that's kind of interesting because it wasn't native. It wasn't an item that was really native to their people, and so it was kind of made native dolls to be sold to the market. All of this was made up to be sold to the white people and the people to the south.
I see.
Initially, they would have little carvings like these that were the little carvings that would be like fetishes, and they had religious symbols way back 200 years ago.
Okay.
By the 1850s, the white people had came and started trading. They didn't want to trade their spiritual pieces. Sure. So they started carving what they wanted. And so a lot of them were made like these down here.
Yeah, let's take a look at these. Tell me
Aren't
about
those fun? Those are done out of a type of jasper, which is a natural stone up in Alaska. And their emphasis is, of course, on the nature that's around them. Sure. And so, again, any of these pieces will range in value from maybe $50 to $500, depending on the artist and depending on how well carved it is. Okay. But done like in a jasper, and then this is
tell me about this walrus.
He's great. He's a muskox.
Oh, muskox. Okay. Sorry, not a walrus. I was thinking of the tusk of a walrus. So what is this? What is this material?
It's called, well, the official name of it is serpentinite. Okay. Which is, but they call it jade. They call it they call it Canadian or Alaskan or Inuit jade. Yeah. And it's a hard stone. It's not as hard as soapstones, but it's harder than soapstones, but it's easier to carve. The people and the natives, even though they have access now to any power tools they would want, they still basically refuse to use them except for cutting maybe a large block down. And they use all the old tools that they always used to use.
Yeah, that's why. And this one you say would
He's about a $500 piece. Yeah, maybe $600. He has a lot of work done. He has ivory added to him and whatnot like that, or like little birds are sitting on an antler.
Tell me about these guys.
Aren't they? Don't they have personality? These two little whales.
These two, yeah.
These here and the walrus and the little tiny walruses in front shows that how they could carve antlers. Oh, that's what it is. These are all caribou antlers. Okay. They would have been made, and so it would have been less expensive. They didn't need to, and easier to carve. But also, you're already looking for a piece that gives you that kind of a feeling of what you're doing.
A movement looks like. Okay, yeah. Speaking of walruses.
Yeah, the ancient walrus, the peoples changed. Before contact, there were people that they don't know a lot about that would carve, but they would carve the skeleton outside. This is no, don't worry about that. This is a copy of one. This is a modern piece. Okay. But they would actually carve the skeleton of the creature on the outside, and they think it had kind of a spiritual significance. They're still studying to find out exactly what it probably meant. But those people had died out a couple thousand years ago.
Now, is this ivory here?
These are ivory. The ones in the front are a little kayaker and all.
Yeah,
and
this little guy.
yeah, and the whale that's in front. Those are all, and it's walrus ivory.
Okay.
Can't take you anywhere.
I know, right? Okay.
They're walrus ivory, and this is one thing I get, probably one of the top questions I get is about ivory, because we know that ivory is banned or so restricted. But that is mainly elephant ivory when you hear about the ant. And so, elephant ivory, this is walrus ivory. And one of the ways you tell, of course, is the subject helps.
Sure.
If it's Inuit, it's probably, you know, from their walrus tusk or something like that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But and the Asian is going to be more elephant ivory. And the elephant ivory, and I don't know if this can show on camera or not.
Hold this. So this is an example.
He's Chinese, or excuse me, Japanese, but on the cut part of the tooth, if you're looking at it, it'll have a cross grain. It looks like it's been cut with a slow saw, and that's how the tooth grows. Walrus ivory grows a little bit different. It does not have that pronounced grain.
Yeah.
It's one of the ways you can test it to see. There's no restriction on that to buy and sell the ivory there, walrus ivory.
Yeah.
Except in the raw form. You can't sell it in raw form.
Incredible pieces. Gary.
Soapstone.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
Your wealth of information.